I figured I just quickly mentioned. I know something that we don't really get involved in is the what's it cost. Well,
we have to because it's part of it, right? But you
Yeah.
know what? People ask me about costs all the time as an assessor, and I don't know. I'm not quoting. I can tell you hours, and then somebody else goes and figures costs. But especially if you probably do know this because you work with our sales teams more than I do. But yeah, what does it cost to get an assessment? And is it different for like penetration testing versus audit?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the audits, they can be as little as $15K up to around 40. So that's a normal range.
Yeah.
When we do the bigger audits, that's going to go up a lot higher than that.
So a large, complex organization.
Yeah, that's definitely not going to be your typical audit. That's going to be a lot. And basically, how many merchant IDs are you looking at? How many reports do you need?
Right.
How many weeks is it going to take?
Sure.
Another tip. Let's call this a tip. You don't want to just meet with your auditor every week just because that's a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
Those are what we call billable hours.
Yes.
So that time gets built to your project.
Have a meeting.
Yeah.
It's probably better not to.
Yes. So just because that's what you do with other people, from a tip in terms of saving money, don't just do it just because it gives you a warm fuzzy or whatever. You know? So
you know what else can simplify an audit?
Yeah.
Is depending on how many different platforms they have their information or their systems in. I worked with an organization that they thought it was going to be a fairly simple audit, but they ended up having their own on-prem servers. They had 2 different data centers, and then they had and one was one they managed and one that they had hot hands from the data centers doing it. They were also in Azure and AWS and somewhere in GCP. And I just went, this is not going to be simple. Let's and so we actually had to go back and readjust how many hours it's going to take, because the less consistent something is, the more hours it's going to take.
Absolutely.
And I know that translates to money.
Yep. So on the pen test, this is another area that can be scary for an organization. The ones we look at can go from around 15 to 70. That's a range that often an entity is going to be paying for their pen test. So it is a bit pricey, but just something to keep in mind. It's based on how many days is it going to take to appropriately pen test the environment.
And I think that the number of days can be related to things like how many roles do you have with different levels of permissions in the application? How many APIs do you have?
Yep.
So it's the application layer pen test as opposed to a network layer pen test is going to take a lot more time. Network layers are typically less time.
Yep. And so what you have, with the network, for a typical PCI assessment that we do, we want them looking at the network environment, and as things change, sort of evolve in how applications are provided, that takes on a new approach, let's say. Your traditional approach has some sort of firewall they're trying to get through, and then you have systems. And now as things become more virtual, things are a little different. But those, so you're going to do a network pen test, and then you're going to any application involved in the payment system needs to also be included.
Right.
And so that is what we'll be looking at. And as a QSA works with you, they will help you understand what piece needs to be tested to satisfy the requirements for PCI.
Sure. It's their responsibility to scope their environment, but then the QSA comes in and says yes or no to whether the scope is appropriate. So there's a kind of a balance there. And it's important to lean on your QSA to know before they get on site if the scope is correct. Pen tests take time, so you want to make sure that scope is correct far prior to your on-site.
Yep. So just like 6 months or so, or rather 9 months, you're working with the QSA to determine your on-site date. That pen test should be a big part of scheduling. So you want that to happen either a little bit before the assessment or right around the same time.
3 months before.
3 months before would be awesome. Yeah.
Again, I'm a lot meaner than you are, George. But because if you have the pen test scheduled right when your assessment is, and I know that most people don't do this, but I'm kind of a freak about it. What if they have a problem and they have all of these things that need remediation, and then they run out of time, and then everybody's stressed, and then all of a sudden you're getting fined by your bank because it's not done when it's supposed to be done. I don't want that to happen to anybody, right? So planning ahead is, I might have a little bit of a cybersecurity prepper mentality. So
No, that is good. The other thing is, our slots, especially at our company, slots can fill up quick.
Yeah.
So if you don't schedule your time, you end up getting it later and later. And the later it is, the worse it is for your assessment.
Sure.
Because you have to have the results of it and the remediation done before the report's signed.
Because we can't say, well, it's great that you have this thing planned for the future. I'm going to check that off. We don't get to do future state, right?
Yeah. So what Jen recommended is safe. That's the safe approach. And you want to get on the schedule so that, you get it done.
Okay.
Now, the other thing that comes into play post-assessment is we typically look for 30 days. So we want you to have all your... So we're going to do the assessment, and we try to be an advocate in the sense that, we point out what you need to do to become compliant, and we look at it, and we try to help you to encourage you, let's say, to get it done so that we can complete the report. And we look at 30 days. So post-assessment, we want you to be remediated, done, everything done within 30 days.
Yeah.
And then your report comes around 30 to 45 days later, post-assessment.
Yeah. Why does it take a report so long?
Well, the darn thing's long to begin with.
They take forever to write. I've had reports that are 40, 50, 60 hours just in writing time. Yeah. It takes the time it takes, unfortunately. So the more information, the more accurate information that our customers can give us in detail prior to and during the on-site, the quicker that report writing can happen.
It almost sounds like a fine wine. It just takes the time.
Time that it takes.
That's it.
So
That's a Jen saying right there.
So post on-site for sure. We want to get that remediation done, and the reason we need it within 30 days is because everything that we saw during the on-site, that's going to go stale. That evidence
that's
goes
important.
stale. Yeah.
Yeah. So we push our customers to get that, and once it goes beyond a certain time, we will require a revisit because, as Jen mentioned, things go stale, and we no longer have the confidence that you're compliant.
Yeah, and that's not just us. This is assessors everywhere. Like any good assessment company is going to say, we cannot take information and just let it sit. We have to take a look at it again. You have to refresh it to make sure that the report is accurate on the most current information. And so that's just a standard what you need to expect with any organization. Mm-hmm. So then after they get their report and it's all signed and things are finally, we can say at that point in time, when I signed that report, everything was current. Mm-hmm. And then what?
And it's a magical moment.
It is a magical moment.
The heavens part, the angels sing.
I hope you enjoyed that clip from the SecurityMetrics podcast. If you'd like to see the full episode, click here. If you'd like to see more content, subscribe to our YouTube channel here. See you on the slopes.